Good evening, board members, Mr. Gonzalez, and district staff. The time is now 6:02 p.m. on this, the 7th day of February 2023, and I call this board workshop of the United Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. The following board members are present.
Michelle Molina, present.
Javier Montemayor, present.
Frank Castillo, present.
And Elisa Oliveros, present. A quorum is present. State below, a quorum is present. This is the first time we're doing this. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this workshop has been duly called, and that notice of this workshop has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Agenda item 2, if we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Okay. Do we have any public comments? No public comments. Okay. Agenda item 4, informational items. 4A, college academic readiness summary for 2021-2022.
Good evening,
evening.
Ms. Molina, Ms. Oliveros, Mr. Montemayor, and Mr. Castillo. I'm Mario Rosales, Director of Advanced Academics. I'm going to give you an overview of how we did last year in terms of college readiness. So we go to the next slide. The district goal for serving these students is to provide consistent quality instruction for all students, resulting in improved student achievement and progress. So I'm going to show you the advanced placement results, and I'm also going to show you the dual credit concurrent enrollment results from last year. So on the next slide, the first thing that you'll see is the 5-year trend of how our students are doing versus Texas and versus the nation in reference to the number of students that get a 3 or better on an exam versus all the students that took exams. So you'll notice that in 2021, the number was not that good. It went down to 47.87% compared to the state and to the nation. But then this past year, we are now on top at 60.93% of our students getting 3s or 4s and 5s or better. And the Texas is at 59, and the nation is at, or global is at 57.96%.
Mr. Rosales, if I may, I think this is the first time that's ever happened, right? We're ahead.
Yes, sir.
Global.
Yes, sir.
Which is kudos to our teachers. And our
Yes,
students.
congratulations.
Amazing,
Definitely.
great job.
Thank you. And then on the next slide, it just shows you the number of AP scholars that we had that we were recognized in December at the board meeting. You'll notice that this year we have 95, which is lower than last year, which was 120, and that is attributed to the number of AP exams is not as high as it used to be because of we're still trying to recover from the pandemic, where the number of scores went down and then they went up again, and now we're getting to a point where we're going to be evening out in reference to
Another
the
reason for
numbers.
that also is we opened up another early college. And so when students are taking more early college classes, their tendency is to take less APs. Is that right, Mr. Rosales? I mean, that'd be the
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
And yes, that is correct. So we also, since the number of exams has gone down, then the number of AP scholars is also traditionally going to go down. So we do have quite a number there. On the next slide, I'm going to start off with the class of 2022, last year's seniors, and these are the courses that they take for dual credit, meaning that they get credit for high school and college in partnership with Laredo College. And you'll notice that for the English 1302, the overall passing rate was 98%, English 2327, overall passing rate of 98, and in the spring, Math 1314, an overall passing rate of 99%. On the next slide, continuing with the class of 2022, these are the students that are in the early start pathway. We'll notice government, 2305 and 2306, we had a passing rate of 95% and 100%. And then in the spring, we had, again, only United offering those courses because they didn't offer it in the fall. We had a passing rate of 98% and 99%. On the next slide, Continuing with the psychology courses, you'll notice that most of them offered the course in the spring. We had an overall passing rate of 95%. And the next slide, this is the class that is offered at United South High School in lieu of psychology. So you'll notice that the passing rate is 95 and 98%, and for the spring, it's 100% overall.
What course is that? Do you know?
Biology,
Biology.
1306,
Oh, in lieu of
1307.
psychology.
In lieu of psychology,
Okay.
yes, yes. And they usually take the psychology during the summer college academy. Right. On the next slide.
Is that a class that's offered as a, or is it required or required?
It's
by
part of the
student?
ESP, or Early Start Pathway Buffet. We call it a buffet because the students are able to take it or not. It's up to them.
It's up to them.
It's up to them, so if they decide they want to take it during the summer college academy, they can do so. On the next slide, we have the 11th graders, class of 2023. We have the the History 1302 at 85% passing rate. I know there was a little bump there at United South High School, but that has been corrected. We now have a 95% passing rate. For English 1301 in the spring, we had a 93% passing rate. On the next slide, we have class of 2024 10th graders. The only class they take is the History 1301 in the spring, and you'll see that the passing rate is 93%. The next slide, these are the freshmen. They take it also only one class in the spring. This is the Early Start Pathway program. You'll notice that Computer Science 1301 is 100%, and Arts 1301 is also at 100%. So they're doing very well in that. On the next slide, we have the Gold program, which is the Garnering Online Dual Credit. It's an online course that they take during school. And this is the number of students that have taken the courses that you see listed. The ones that are in green are the ones that are for dual credit. The rest of them are only strictly for college credit. You'll notice that we had 416 students taking these courses with an overall passing rate of 94%. On the next slide, we have the UT on Ramps program, and this year we have this past year we had 149 students. You'll notice the different courses that they took. This is a hybrid course. It is pretty much the teachers trained by the University of Texas during the summer, and then they come back and pretty much facilitate the course while the instructor from UT Austin is, covering the material. It's a year-long course, and you'll notice that we offer pre-calculus, physics, algebra 2, and chemistry, as well as arts and entertainment technology at United High School. This course is, like it says, we saved over $249,000 because 80% of the students that took these courses got the college credit, meaning that they could transfer these courses to, let's say, Laredo College, or if they're going to UT Austin. So just to give you an idea that the four-year institution tuition is $2,027, and the average textbook cost is $240, so we didn't really, we saved actually the district and the taxpayers and the parents this much money.
Or if they want to go to Texas A&M and College Station.
Correct,
They
yes.
can transfer
That's
there.
not on there,
Exactly,
man.
Yeah,
yes.
well,
That's
sorry.
not on there.
What school is that?
This is UT Austin.
What school?
We're gonna go to the next slide.
Yes, next slide. Next slide. Is there a next slide? Oh, okay, but that's pretty much it. You said a next slide.
You've exceeded your
Again.
limit, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you again for your time. Appreciate it.
And definitely congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Moving on to agenda item 4B, 2023 updates for the Texas English Language Proficiency Assessment. Telpas.
Good evening, Mr. Gonzalez, members of the board, and audience present. My name is Maria Arambula Ruiz. I'm the Director for Bilingual Education, and I have some updates regarding TELPAS. The testing window is around the corner. Starting February the 20th through March 31st, our students at UISD will begin their testing assessment for TELPAS and the TELPAS ALT assessment. There are now some updates. At that time this was being prepared, it was proposed, but now it is final. It's now, what is listed in here is actually reality. As the TELPAS writing domains, we know that for the 2023, the writing domain is different, the way it's being tested. Before it used to be a holistic assessment. Now it is an online assessment that the students will be taking. Now, for 2023 only, TELPAS will be evaluated at the domain level in place of the composite. So before the students would test all domains and then get a composite rating. This time around, it's only composite rating and domain rating and no composite, just for this school year. Students will be considered having made progress if the student advances or is scored at advanced high or basic fluency in 2 out of the 3 domains. So this year, they are testing the 4, but only 3 of the domains are counting. And so when we look at that, we look at the ones that are being evaluated will be listening, speaking, and reading. Why? Because the writing is new this year, so they're going to be looking at how it's going to be scored and how the students are going to do this this year to be able to gauge it for the following year. Now, only students evaluated in all 3 domains in both 22 and 23 will actually be evaluated. And we know that for 2024, the ELPS methodology will go again back to getting a TELPAS composite in order to show progress. Now, this morning, as we looked at the information, the target goal last year was at 36%. We were looking at it being 38% this year. Well, lo and behold, there is new information, and now there are new interim goals that have been set for elementary, for middle, and for high school. So when we look at the elementary interim goal for this year, we're looking at the students meeting progress at 49% of the students that test. So it jumped. When we look at middle school, we're now looking at 44%, and when we're looking at high school, we're looking at 34%. We also learned from what we reviewed today and the information that we have is that closing the gap, domain number 3 will be scored differently the way that we were used to before. It's now different set of criteria that will be followed. But we know that for English language proficiency, both at the elementary, middle, and high school, the contribution that TELPAS makes for the campus is 10% of the overall score for domain number 3. We have been preparing, although the target goals have changed, we have been preparing with students from the very beginning of the school year, and thanks to ESSER funding, we got a new feature on Nearpod, which is one of the platforms that teachers are using with students in the classroom, and it's providing students the opportunity to practice their writing skills, not only the writing, but giving them the opportunity also to speak what they're writing into the platform in order to prepare the students for the assessment. The other program also available for all emerging bilingual students is our Summit K-12, and that does prepare students for all of the components that will be tested, which are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So all of these resources have been made available to our students due to the ESSER funding that we received in the district. So this is basically all the information I have to share with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 4C, budget 2023-2024 update. Oh, there was, did I miss it?
C, you skipped C. Here.
C and D.
See, oh, it's not on my other paper. It's okay. Agenda item 4C, review of teacher staffing process, class size recap 2022-2023.
I go, okay, I thought I was next. Dave Canales for the record. Good evening, board members. Mr. Gonzalez, thank you for being with us today. We just wanted to share with you a brief synopsis of how we staff. First of all, I want you to know that this is a team effort. It's not just HR. We have admissions departments. I'll ask the admissions folks to stand up with me over here as well. And we have the business side, and then we have the HR side that we talk to, and also the C&I side. So first of all, the first slide, and this is where the admissions department comes in. So we have Mrs. Martinez here. She's the one that first tells us what our projected enrollment will be. And so as you see here, this is last year's projected enrollment. She gets together with the demographers, checks to see, okay, what the household numbers look like. We look at the rollover of the kids, and then we get our number. And so when we get our number, that's what we base ourselves when we start to staff. So she plays a huge role when she comes in, because that's how we base everything. It's like having a budget, and you work through in your budget. Then we move on to the next slide. So the next slide, once we know what we're dealing with, so this is an example of a particular school, and it looks busy on top, but basically it helps us understand the growth or the loss of growth from year to year. And then we staff it 22 to 1 from pre-K all the way up to 4th grade. And if it's 5th grade, of course, it's 26 to 1. And then you'll see there we have the comparisons. So when we meet with our principals, we show them where they were and where they are today with the projected numbers. Because it depends. One year you may have more kids, and next year you may have less kids. It depends on what's going on with the movement of your attendance zone area. Then if you move on to the next thing, we also have our staffing template. So we use TASB's staffing template. TASB is what gives us a template, and then all the school districts in the state of Texas uses their recommended template as far as, okay, what are we looking for? So, of course, you have here pre-kinder to 4th grade, okay, again, 1 teacher for 22 kids. 5th grade, 1 teacher for 26 kids. And then you go down the list. And this is what we use to make sure that we are careful with our monies, making sure that we don't overstaff, understaff, and then we play it by that number, whatever Ms. Martinez shares with us with the projected enrollment. For example, this year was an amazing growth. We had over 1,500 kids that showed up that we didn't project. They just showed up. So then we had to make adjustments. And that's where Mrs. Gonzalez will go ahead and talk to you. So it's a team effort. She has a huge role in making sure that everything is put together. And we coordinate with Lyda and her team. And it's just a domino effect of making sure if everything is fitting correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Ms. Gonzalez to come and talk a little bit about leveling.
Good evening, board members. Patty Gonzalez, Director of Compensation. Yes, we work closely with the principals, well, in this case, elementary principals, in determining the number of teachers we need per grade. So as soon as we finish the process of the proposed budget, we actually come in at the end of the summer and look at actual student enrollment. So what students actually are registered and are going to show up at our classes. So what we do is we look again, same process, look at the numbers based on each grade. And what we do at that point, if we need to make an adjustment, for example, maybe we need to add a teacher in a grade, well then we will do that, we will add a position. Maybe we need to move a teacher from one grade to the next, and that kind of movement is pretty much initiated by the elementary principal. If one grade could be, one teacher in a 2nd grade could be moved to 1st grade, well, then they'll take care of that. And then maybe we need to move a teacher from a campus to a campus, which we have done before. And we usually work with volunteers. We have a lot of volunteers that say, you know, I live next to Malakoff, so I'll go. So that's the kind of process we do, what we call leveling of classes. And just for the record, on the 22-23 school year, we did need to add 8 more teachers, pretty much at the end of the summer. So that's what we had to do there. The next part is on the class size exemptions, the waivers that we had presented to the board. I believe Ms. Morales is going to present that part.
Good evening. So yes, this is what Ms. Gloria Rendon used to submit to the state. So after all of that is done, and we have any classes that are still above 22, so it'd have to be 23 and over. This was what was submitted in September 16th, and as you can see that one of the approvals for class size exemptions have to do with unanticipated enrollment growth, which is what we experienced this year. So if we go on to the next slide, another thing that, and I know Ms. Thelma Martinez is going to talk a little bit about this, but it's really a moving target. It's always changing. Mm-hmm. So what was submitted back in September is different now in February, and the class size waiver is only submitted once a year. That is required only to be submitted by October the 1st. Do you want to explain a little bit about that?
Good afternoon, board members. Thelma Martinez, Director of Admissions. And here, on one side, you see the waivers that we submitted in September. And then on the other side, you see as of that we just went back and looked at each class again. And we see that we have 74. But if you see the shaded areas, those shaded areas are a leveling, balancing, a balancing item that we're looking at in each class. And what do we mean by that? That means that in that grade level, the classes are supposed to be 22 to 1. If we average out all the teachers, there will be 22 or below, but there'll be one class that might be at a 23. Why? Because depending on the situation that might have happened. If a student left and came back, or if the principal for one reason or another needs to put a student in a specific class, if they're GT, depending on whatever the situation is, that might cause that class to go above the 22 to 1. So it is every day that you look at the rosters in Tyler, there will be a change.
So in some of those classrooms, I'm seeing, and maybe I'm not seeing correctly, but I do see that there's 4 extra students above the ratio?
No, those are 4 classes
Four
that would
classes,
be
okay.
above.
What's the highest you've gone over?
The highest in one grade
number-
level, I think we're looking at that 4, those 4 teachers.
In one classroom?
No, those are not students, those are classes in the grade level that are over the 22 to 1.
But do you have it broken down? Like, okay, this class should
Yes.
only have 22 students. What's the max that you've gone over? 25, 26 students?
It'll be 23, 24, I
Not too
believe it'll be
much.
24.
You wouldn't do 25?
No, the max that we have gone over in students have been 24.
Okay.
Most of them are at 23 though,
And
at 23.
we've gone and made that assessment, right, that classes are not going over 22, even though we have a waiver, but the classes are not going over 22, 23, is that correct, across the entire district?
Right now, if we look at the number of classes that we have over 22 to 1, from pre-kinder to 4th grade, we have 74, but 37 of those are balancing. That issues, that means that if I take the entire teachers in that grade level and I average them out, they will end up with 22.
But this is for,
If I can intervene.
but this is for budgetary purposes, right? That's what we're talking about here, staffing to fit the budget, 22 to 1, so you're preparing the budget, you're explaining what the class sizes
Maybe.
are projected to be for the budget coming around next year.
This is for this year's,
This is right
This
now.
is
We
actual?
haven't started
Understand
next year.
that.
We're in the process of getting a
Okay.
projected enrollment.
Okay.
But when we talk about the gray areas, it says balancing within grade. What that means, there's a sample in the bottom. So you have teacher A that has 23 kids. Well, if the principal chooses to balance that class, then what happens is that you remove that one extra child, that one teacher now goes to 22, and then teacher B now, instead of having 20, gets 21. So all the little gray areas that you see, principals have the opportunity to balance them if they want to, but some schools don't do that.
Ms. Martinez, you just
Yes.
came out of the campus not too long ago. You want to
Yes.
explain why principals do that
Well,
sometimes it's the need?
there will be many situations why you will have one class at 19 and then another class at 23, depending on how you're grouping them. As a principal, ideally, you would like to have heterogeneous grouping to where you have a different selection of students so that, the teacher can go ahead and have their ideal class to learn from each other, students that might be GT, different
Yeah.
programs that they're in. Now, you might have parents that request a certain teacher. You might have students that you want to keep apart. They might be on student contracts that you cannot put in a certain class. Also, we do have students that leave and then come back. So if a teacher had a student in their classroom and that student left, a new student comes in, she wants to balance, she puts them in that classroom, and then that student comes back. Ideally, the parent wants the student with the teacher that they were in before. So there's many things that can cause a class to be over the 22 to 1 and another class to be at 20. As a principal, you deal with these issues every day to where you have parents that pick a certain teacher or might not want a certain teacher for one reason or another. Also in, like, for example, at in some campuses, GTs have to be, they have to be put together in the same class if they do not get pulled out for services. So that's another thing. If you have a class that's GT at 21, at 22, you get a student that comes in that's GT, you need to place them in that class. So there's so many issues that might cause this to happen.
I agree. I've been told and shown, and I get it. I get what you're doing. I get what the purpose is. I've never been a fan of 22 to 1. I think combined with the instructional plan, the flexibility of the teacher, being able to, reteach or focus, with 22, 24 kids is very difficult. And I think that's what's missing in the equation. I think the reality of what's, and and
Yes, sir.
both of you, all three of you, Ms. Gonzalez, and you've been around a long time, but all of you have been on campuses, and it's once you're teaching in that classroom, it's very difficult when you have to stop and teach, reteach, or dealing with the instructional plan or the amount of technology programs that we have to deal with, or the trainings, and it just, even with administrators, assistant principals. I'll give you an example. You all had your assistant principals today, or you had your principals today at a meeting at the SAC, which means that at certain elementary schools, you have one administrator on campus. God forbid an emergency happens, and you've got one administrator, you've got now counselors, you've got other people acting as administrators that aren't administrators. So those numbers are very strict, and I get it. They're for budget purposes to prepare and to deal with that. But I've never been a fan of those numbers, because I think it takes the reality of the situation when a teacher's in a classroom dealing with 24 kids or 22 kids. It's very difficult to pay attention to one group versus another group, and so that's my only comment on that. So.
I had a question or a point to make. We're looking at this table, and it's telling me that, is that Colonel Santos Benavides with a total of 13 classes that are over? Why is there such a significant more or higher number with that?
Mr. Castillo, I'm sorry, Mr. Castillo, what happened with Colonel Santos, right? And we did talk to the principal there early on in September when we saw these numbers. She had all her second graders outside in portables. She chose to bring them into the building. And so now her building doesn't have enough regular classrooms. She did move some, we want to call them the adult services outside, like, speech therapists and diagnosticians that come to visit. So she chose to keep her kids inside the building. So we told her, look, it's looking, when Ms. Gonzalez said about the net 8 teachers, these were the discussions with these principals. And she said, my parents want the kids in the building. So you see where it's 13, and she just had to balance within, and that is a very high number. We had never seen a double-digit number like that for
Well, it stands out to me, and
It does, but that was the rationale that principal chose. She didn't want more teachers, right? She said, look, I'm gonna have my kids in the building, I don't want any classrooms outside.
Yeah.
It might be like a
do you know what the
difficult
class
discussion.
size is, a number? Is it
Bilingual.
No, I
22
think they're
or
like
higher?
23, 24.
But the
like,
bilingual
yeah.
is different at Colonel Santos. The dual language is.
And then you have the dual language issue where, it kind of unbalances the balance, right? Like where you can only put the dual language kids with those 2 teachers, and then, maybe there'll be 20 and 20, and then the rest have to go to the others. So there's always.
So it is
several-
possible that we do have classes out there that are above 22, 23, correct?
There could be some at
Yes.
24, yes.
From pre-K to fourth grade.
Now, we're in constant contact with our principals. If they need assistance, Mr. Canales has pulled miracles and saying, look, can I send you a sub to help you with that classroom or with that, whatever issue may be happening at that time. Sometimes, like in this case, Colonel's case, there's just no more classrooms in that building. So again, that might be a difficult discussion to have with that principal this coming year as we're doing staffing and saying, you know.
Well, you got the transfer issues as well. You got
Yeah.
Herrera, United Middle, Colonel Santos.
Yes,
Those are some of
they're
the,
very familiar,
the
right.
more,
Yes, yeah. So in defense of, well, no defense, right, but, I mean, that is a high number. That is
Sure.
a very high number. She moved like 4 or 5 second-grade classes inside.
So
It's
in
a
this
high num- go
situation,
ahead.
do we have additional teacher aides in the classroom? What are we doing for the immediate? We understand the problem, but what are we doing for the immediate?
We have that ratio with the teacher aides, and then wherever we see where the principal will contact me and saying, look, I really need extra help. What we've been doing is we've been putting subs in there to help cover in the meantime. As you know, there is a employment, hiring issues across the nation.
Yeah.
And so we have these positions open, but people don't want to work. People are not coming.
Yeah.
You know, I just sent an article to Mr. Gonzalez. You know, our numbers are fairly low compared to the other school districts that are missing 200 teachers, 600 staff members. We're not anywhere close to that, but we are still having issues where people don't want to work.
I think that it's the profession itself. I mean, it's not easy.
Tough.
It's
Yeah.
very, very
Yeah.
draining on teachers.
Yeah.
There's high stress, high demand. I mean, look, the terminology that you throw at us and you know, it's overwhelming sometimes.
The
And
demand.
so they get evaluated based on the performance of their children in their classroom. And if you have more than, you know, like Mr. Montemayor was saying, you have a higher ratio, and then I hear you that the parents want and the students want, and the teachers are the ones carrying that. So I think, you know, I think we're very competitive with our salaries, but I think it's the stress of the job. I think that's what it is.
For the
at
record,
end
I
of the
can
day.
tell you, excuse me, ma'am, back in September, we first went for the waivers. You know, in my office, we did call, our staff, we did call every single principal, we talked to them. And there were many cases, and the principal said, I don't want another teacher. I don't want to disrupt it right now. And I know we're all there together, but we try to work with our schools as best we can, see how we can help.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're meeting all of the fire
Yes, we are.
code occupancies, because
Oh,
that's a
yes.
lot of people in a building, yeah. Okay.
And one of the reasons why, as a principal, sometimes you say, no, you know, we're okay, can be because when you do bring that other teacher in, you're having to split up classes, and parents don't want their kids to move. So many of the principals chose not to. But just so that you can see that this continues to be different numbers every day, even though Colonel did have 13, as of today, they went down, so we have 2 less classes that are over the 22 to 1.
It's fluid,
E-
it's
every day,
always
every
changing.
day.
and-
And these numbers over here are as of Friday. As of
Okay.
I get it. Again,
I'm-
I'm not complaining, this has always been a constant issue, you know, that I get called on by campuses and teachers and parents. And-
Right.
and
With
so-
a 22 to 1, and then 2 years ago, they did add pre-kinder to the 22 to 1.
Well,
So just a question, because, you know, I think we all do get hit up with the same teacher-student ratio from teachers. If the teachers are asking for the help, I don't see why the principal would say no to that, though, if the teacher in the classroom is asking for help.
So there's another variable to this staffing guideline. We also have the issue of regrouping, where we have to move kids around because of either bilingual certification or whatever it may be. And I know that Ms. Lessa is going to be working with the CNI team and with the principals are trying to figure out another way to help with the regrouping side. So we do meet the staffing guidelines for the most part for the 22 to 1, maybe 23 if it goes a little over because of the waiver issue. But then what you are hearing, Ms. Molina, is that when you regroup, those numbers get big.
Yes.
But it's not because of the formula that we've been using, it's because of the regrouping that takes place.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
But
That's
at
where
the end of the day,
change
it still
happens.
increases the number of students
Yes.
within the classroom, so, you know, I understand the formula, but it's actuality what's happening in the classroom.
Yeah.
And we get it. It's difficult.
You
You're
need a plan.
you're in a precarious situation, and so you're doing the best you can. But I will say, if they added pre-K, Head Start classrooms are capped at 20, and that's never going to change, unless the federal government changes it, but they're not. That's strict. And then you get 3 employees. You have a teacher, teacher aide, and a sub, 3 staff members, 3 to 20. So,
I know you need a plan, I know you need a strategy, I get it, but it's It's the ladies in the classroom, the gentlemen in the classroom that
Right.
look at
We
it.
hear them. We hear
You
them.
gotta juggle it, you know, you have a
Right.
budget, you have student needs, and you have parent wants, and you have teacher needs, and you have principal needs, and
Student
at the end of the
needs.
day, I think what you're presenting, I trust it's the best you can do. And for that, I thank you, because that's hard.
It
What you're
is.
doing is hard. It's not easy.
And what I can tell you, the principals do communicate with us, to CNI, to us, and if we see there's a dire need, then what we've been doing, like I've been mentioning, is we send a sub as that extra support that can not just only help that one class during that one time, because remember, regroup is not the whole day, it's just
Right.
part of the day.
Right.
You know, that sub can help in other areas as well.
Yeah, you have PE, you have, they go to different places, so you juggle it throughout the day. There may not be 23 to 1. It may be less.
What I can tell you, Board, is this. You have a phenomenal team here. You have Ms. Benavides, Ms. Gonzalez here with 20 years' experience. They've been doing this for a long time. They're masters with this. We're the new kids in the block. I mean, not really new to the sense that we don't know what we're doing, but new to the conversations at this
Yes,
level.
yes.
Because we were on the opposite side,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
now you
where
know.
we wanted to help.
Yes.
And
But it's
don't,
good- it's
don't
Now
good
you
to
know,
get the
now
insight.
you know,
Yeah.
now you know, because I know, yeah.
Share with the board, we are meeting, not every Wednesday, but we try to meet on Wednesdays, at least for an hour or longer times, to talk about staffing, and we're gonna be tomorrow.
Yeah,
I mean, just-
yeah.
If I may, I would just want to point out, I think most of us will agree, we're not criticizing.
No,
okay?
not at all.
But-
No, not at all.
But we critique.
Yes.
We critique the numbers, and numbers don't lie, okay? And that's my concern, that we try to find a balance. Ideally, everybody should be perfect, right? But I know it's impossible, and you do a great job trying to work with the numbers, but yes, it does stick out like a sore thumb. And that's all I'm pointing out, like, why do we have that? It's only a question.
And it's a very valid one. I was
Yeah.
even thinking, like, we probably have to look at maybe boundaries, and, I don't know, that's a bad word. I know that's a bad word. I just said a bad word. I'm sorry, but.
We are
yeah,
looking
yeah,
at
yeah.
boundary
I know,
changes
I know.
already.
That's next.
I know, I know.
That's
Next.
Next.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I
you.
appreciate everything you
Yes.
do. I appreciate you answering our questions as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm right. Agenda item 4, budget 2023, 2024 update.
Yes, so like Mr. Gonzalez mentioned, we have been having our administrative meetings. We try to have them on Wednesdays. Tomorrow, we're meeting with HR on our projected enrollment that we got from admissions for next year. We look at growth in certain areas. I don't know if you remember, we kind of showed you a screen where we see a bunch of not building permits, but residential permits. And so we kind of try to factor in the growth in those areas. You know, you got your San Isidro, you got your veterans at that end, you got your Muller on the west end. So that's the approach we take. But just to share with the board, at the legislative level, Sam, if you want to go to the next page. Last week, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Mike Garza, Ms. Lessa were in Austin, and they were able to meet with Representative Raymond and I believe Tracy King. And these were the bills that we took written, and the reasons why we supported some bills, and some reasons, and then you actually have some that we did not support, and that's what we have here. Of course, we do support the ones that give us more money. That's always really good, and it's in there. They're even talking about making it with adding inflation factor to the money they give us.
Good.
And then there's also a bill that talks about using average enrollment and not attendance. Because across the state, attendance has been a factor. In chronic absenteeism has been a factor. So that's a bill we also have wanted to support. Richard Raymond had a bill about homestead exemptions and giving our homeowners relief. We said we fully support that as long as we are held harmless from the state. In other words, they give us the state revenue that we get. Another bill, I think, there you're going to see, yeah, you can go up. There's the inflation factor and the basic allotment increase that we fully support also, and the inflation factor. The special ed one, where the way they fund us right now really doesn't fund us for the full services that we provide, like the OTs, the PTs,
So
the
they fund us
diagnosticians.
based on the label of special ed, but not on the handicap and condition, the services that we provide. It could be multiple.
Right.
So we went over that with our two state representatives.
Y'all stressed that one
Very
a lot,
much.
that would help us a lot. The other one is on TRS. We want the state to cover more of the pension. They've been increasing our part for the last, I don't know how many years. So we fully support them keeping our pension fully funded. The Zaffarini bill, it's about free full-day pre-K for certain children. And we just said, we support this if you give us full-day funding for these students.
Yeah, I think she's been trying to do this for a long
Right,
time.
right. So,
Yeah.
you know, we're telling, hey, we fully support
But
you.
do it, but fund us.
Yes,
Yeah.
but fund us for a full day of services,
Right.
right?
Well,
And
we are gonna
then
be funded full-day 4-year-olds, correct?
They do half-day funding for the
Only-
4-year-olds.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I thought we were mandated for next year to have full-day 4-year.
Yes.
At all.
We're
but not being
mandated to
funded
have
for the
full day, but the funding.
Only
yeah,
half,
yes,
okay.
Yes. And then.
Unfunded mandate, yeah.
Yeah, so, I'm gonna get out of my comfort zone. I don't know if Ms. Lessa wants to explain about the one on accountability.
What was, Les is coming over, just so you know, on that day, class were canceled in Austin. It was pretty cold, there was ice. Safarini Senator was supposed to meet us there, but she did not, but actually the Capitol was also closed. But they opened it up for Richard Raymond and Tracy King, so they met with us. A few administrators, there's 3 from allies that joined us, but we pretty much took the lead, but I think it's important that they heard us out, and they were very complimentary of us going out of our way to go over these bills, you know, slowly with them. But go ahead,
They've been
Emma.
very supportive, and that was very nice of them to go out in
Yes.
bad weather and open up and
They
meet
did.
with you.
House Bill 1416, I'm sure you've all heard from the teachers about House Bill 4545 and the 30 hours that they need to provide for multiple, for all the multiple STAR assessments. So this bill, we're supporting it because it's changing things with House Bill 4545 that make it more realistic as far as giving the parents the choice to say, yes, I want my child to go through the number of hours, or no, I don't. Also focusing on the reading and the math versus the science and the social studies and just the science and social studies. And then also lowering the number of hours depending on how well the students are doing. So they're giving the districts the opportunity to analyze data and to make sure that we're making the best decisions for the students. They're also taking out the committee, because this year, every campus had to have multiple committee meetings just to say we're going to provide the 30 hours. Another thing is that they had no funding at all for House Bill 4545. So we took the brunt of everything that we needed to fund for the students. And so we're also looking at, can you provide some funding so that we can pay for those extra tutorials, so that we can provide teachers additional stipends for what we need to meet.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. This was another one that we are, let me see, is this one supporting? Okay, and then this is because, again, the safety issue, right? If the campus is determining that, that the student is not, is providing a threat to the campus, and the district can create an instructional setting that's best for them. So maybe it would not be on campus, maybe it would be virtual.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, so, and again, depending on those behaviors that we have documented for the students.
They need to go in and they need to approve that virtual high school and the virtual schools. Mhm.
And not have all the stipulations that they have right now, that it's only students who have passed STAR.
Right.
I mean,
Open
we've
it
got
up.
to make sure that we have safety as the priority.
Mhm.
I believe they were happy with these bills, because as I said, these are the bills we do not support, and we went over each
Yes,
one.
yes.
And LISD supported us as well on these.
Yeah. I think one key one that's related to board members is that second one,
partisan.
House Bill
I
221.
saw that.
That they want to make Board of Trustees the election of partisan. In other words, you have to say if you're Democrat or Republican or Independent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we told them we don't support that. You know,
Yeah.
that's something that doesn't, well, in our opinion,
Doesn't
doesn't
belong
belong
in
in the school
education.
district.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The first one, they're wanting to, the organizations we belong to that guide us with these laws and go to the Capitol for us, because we can't be in Austin every day. We pay them, you know, we're part of
The
their
lobbyists,
association,
lobbyists.
and they go lobby. And they want to restrict us using funds to pay for lobbyists. And the thing is that they're really lobbying for public ed. And so that's why we feel we can't support that one.
Well, then they need to stop giving in to lobbyists so that we don't need
Well,
lobbyists.
Exactly.
Good
Listen
point.
to school districts, directly.
Right, well, just
Yeah.
listen to the people.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then the 557 has to do with vouchers. In other words, they're trying to create this program that helps charter schools and vouchers. The next one, I think that's Emma's.
The other ones that we are not supporting is they're trying to criminalize students that are caught with e-cigarettes or the vaping pens. That is not something we are supporting, because right now, when we look at our enrollment in STEP, 90% of our students enrolled there were because of vaping. I think that they need to work on the source. How are the students, how are these underage minors getting the vaping in the first place, versus trying to have them with a criminal record, you know.
Education versus
Right.
incarceration.
Right, so we're not supporting that one at all.
Yeah, Andy, that was just to repeat. Yeah, so I think that was it.
I did
So-
have a question going to the first page. Can you explain to me or define for me what is economically disadvantaged? 75%, is it poverty or what, poverty level?
Poverty level,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
And it's a formula, again, that we follow by the state, so that's how we determine if our students are identified as economically disadvantaged or not.
So 75% is our number?
Pretty much what?
Yes,
yeah.
our district, we've been steady for, I think the past 4 years, 76% of our students are
Yeah, so
identified as
For every
economically.
4 students, 3 of them are identified as economically disadvantaged.
So we have 40,000 students, 30,000 are economically disadvantaged.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. This one, we get our scores, you know, districts across the state, they ask, how you all doing it? But it's a tribute to our teachers that we have and administrators.
There are, for the economical disadvantage, I'm sorry, members of the board, I'm Hector Perez. It is determined by 2 factors. One is on the low-income survey, where the parent submits a survey stating how much money they make based on their salary and how many household members they have. And based on that formula, they are determining their economical disadvantage. That's one way to do it. The other one that we take advantage of, we go ahead and merge the list that is produced by the government of any families that are low income, that are receiving food stamps or any help from the government, housing. We grab all those students as well, and we add them, because our goal is to have that number very well represented, because that is sort of our handicap in many, many areas, including test scores, including the E-rate, including a lot of the help that we get from the government. So,
SNAP, the meals?
yes, the SNAP the meals. We get that direct list, it goes straight into our Tyler system.
Right.
And it determines, it qualifies, it supersedes even the low-income survey. So if you think I'm making so much, I don't qualify, when we merge that list, that takes over the code. It automatically makes you a code 1, which is the direct
So some of it
verification.
is self-reported by the
Yes.
parents
Yeah.
or the family?
Well, the parents, yes. The parents complete the survey. You know, it's part of our online registration system, but some parents might not know how much they make, or, you know, or sometimes they say, I make so much, because, you know, they don't want to admit that they don't make a lot of money. So we automatically get it from the government, and it supersedes the other code, just to let you know.
Thank you for the information. We're good? Okay, all right, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 4D. 4E. Sorry, it says mine's off, oh, mine's off. You got it, it's okay, no worries. 2022 delinquent personal property turned over to tax attorney to process tax warrants and seizures.
Good evening, members of the board,
Hi there, Ms.
Mr.
Madrigal.
Gonzalez, members of the audience. I'm Monica Madrigal, tax assessor collector, and we bring to you the 22 delinquent personal property turned over to our delinquent tax attorneys, Castillo Reyes and Del Rio
Okay, thank you.
Law Group. We read this report on February 2nd, and the numbers show that we're gonna turn over, for personal property only accounts, 8.1 million. Now, this number is gonna change due to that we're still receiving payments due to the freeze that was last week. So we're still getting payments. This number should come, you know, there are still payments in transit we've been receiving. I'm estimating it will be an actual number turned over to them at like a 2.7 million.
Is that pretty normal?
Yes, yes, that will be pretty normal. So I have Ms. Del Rio here in case you have any questions.
No questions, I mean, we know.
Council, members of the audience, Ishan Huang for Castillo Reyes and Del Rio. Yeah, I'm very happy that the number is much lower, and also happy for the district that income is coming in. So we thank you for the opportunity to continue to collect for you. And
Absolutely.
I was just already talking to Ms. Madrigal about the stacks of tax warrants. Get ready for her signature.
Okay, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
you.
working with our taxpayers. You know, the last thing we want to do is for them to lose their property.
No, and this is my favorite part. I'm going to nerd out for you with the personal property because it's businesses. It's the
Okay.
equipment that they have that they're at risk of seizure. So I'm very aggressive with this because it's not somebody's home.
Right, that's
It-
different, yeah.
When it comes to July, when we look at the homes that go delinquent, that's when I slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to work February through June to collect as hard as I can for you.
Okay, thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item 5. The following items are to be reviewed by members of the board with recommendations for action to be made at the next regular board meeting. 5A, discussion regarding monthly disbursements.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. The Division of Finance every month presents you with disbursements for the prior month. This is the month of January. I don't know if you all have any questions at this time.
No.
No questions.
I'd like to explain the process to Ms. Molina. If in the future you do have a question, obviously you're more than welcome to ask here. What we do is to give that answer more facts to it. We'll take it back and in a Friday packet, we'll answer the question and send it to all the board members.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
All right, moving on to agenda item 5B, discussion regarding budget amendments.
The Division of Finance is presenting the Board of Trustees with 3 budget amendments. 2 of them are from the general fund and 1 of them is from the debt service fund. The first one is, as you remember, we presented the financial statements to you all last month. Within the fund balance section of the financial statements, we designated fund 7.8 million for construction projects that we need to complete, get started and complete this year, and $2 million to help us on our share of a grant that we received for buses. So we're pulling that out of fund balance. It was assigned in fund balance for this specific purpose, so we're just bringing it out, putting it into the budget so the departments can start with their, we can get these buses in and we can start doing the construction on some of the projects. The second budget amendment, which is BA 2305, this one, at this time of the year, we are kind of far away from the end of the year, but we can run some decent projections. And we have a lot of staff movement by now when we get to January, February. So we just try to match the payroll line items with where our people have moved from one job to another, got promoted and stuff like that. So these are the projections that we make to hopefully get us in the positive by function at the end of the year. We do this twice a year. We'll do another one at the end of August to finalize the budget. And these are just projections that we feel at this time that we need to move this money around based on how people have been promoted and changed jobs throughout the district. This one has no effect on fund balance. The third budget amendment is the debt service. It's BA 2306. The debt service fund is where we pay all of our debt, all the bonds that we issue. And over the past couple of years, you know, how cost is increasing and everything that we do, the cost to actually pay the bonds has gone up on us. So there are agent fees. We use a service a third-party service to pay out the bonds, to make all the investors, to make payments to all the investors. And we just feel that we're a little short, so we're just adding $5,000. This will come from the fund balance in the debt service fund, a very minimal impact. I don't know if you all have any questions for the budget amendments.
No questions.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 5C, discussion of a resolution regarding review of investment policy and strategy.
Yes, the Division of Finance is required by the State of Texas Public Funds Investment Act to bring to the board annually the investment policies, our investment strategies, the brokers that we do investments with, and the training sites that train us. Every 2 years, we have to have 8 hours of training on public funds, investing public funds. We are not making any changes to our current investment policies or strategies. We're not making any changes to our brokers nor the sites that will actually train us. We are adding an additional investment officer. Her name is Coro Perez. She's our new treasury manager. The rest of us, Ms. Benavides, myself, Rosa Cabello, and Felipe have always been budget managers. As we go to these trainings, the trend is to develop like an internal budget group, investment group. And so this will probably be the last person that we'll add here. I think we have enough investment officers. We'll meet, we'll discuss our cash flow, we'll discuss the market, the risks that are in the market, and then we'll get with our investment advisor, which is Richard Long from Valley View, and we'll go out for solicitation on some offers for investments. But right now, there are no other changes.
Okay. Any question?
Thank you.
Thank you. Where was I? Okay, agenda item 5D, discussion of a resolution authorizing the issuance of United Independent School District Maintenance Tax Notes, Series 2023, entering into a purchase and investment letter and a paying agent / registrar agreement and other matters related thereto.
Yes, Board of Trustees, we have Mr. Robert Tijerina from Tijerina, Galvan, and Lawrence to do a presentation on some financing that we'd like to enter into to help us with furniture and equipment on our 2 new schools that we're building, purchase some police units, and various other projects. But Robert Tijerina is going to
Go ahead, Mr. Tijerina.
Good evening, members of the board,
We have
staff,
this
Mr. Gonzalez.
presentation there on your all's. on
Oh,
the table.
okay, yeah, I saw it, thank you.
For the record, Robert Tijerina with Tijerina, Galvan, and Lawrence, School District's financial advisor. And also on the screen is the presentation, preliminary plan of finance maintenance tax notes, Series 2023. And on page 2, we have the 4 outstanding maintenance and operation tax debt that's coming again from the M&O tax rate, not the interest and sinking fund tax rate. And there are 4 outstanding financings from 2009, 18, 19, 20, and 22. We have, starting from left to right, this current fiscal year all the way down to the last maturity in 2024. Principal, interest, and total, and on the right-hand side, we have the total debt service payment coming out to $55.6 million. And again, these projects do not require voter approval. It's
Okay.
just board approval, staff's recommendation, and there's certain projects, they're not new constructions. They're just renovations, replacing equipment, vehicles, computers. So we turn to page 3. On page 3, we ran the preliminary financing. This is one of our first scenarios that we ran for Ms. Benavides and Mr. Flores. We ran $7,485,000. It's in the middle of the page, principal, interest, and total. At the very bottom below Road 24, $7,485,000. Interest, about $1,046,000. The total, $8,531,000 and change, giving us a grand total with the existing debt, $64.1 million. It's a 7-year financing, and if you look towards the very bottom of the page, and we highlighted, shaded in blue, we have a preliminary true interest rate cost of 3.5%. The par amount, $7,485,000. We have the project fund deposit, $7,415,246. And again, this is just discussion only. The board will consider taking action next week at the board meeting. And the difference is the cost of issuance roughly about $70,000. And again, if this item is approved next week, we'll go out and get the financing done and bring it back for final approval at the board meeting on March the 22nd. We'll go over the timetable here in a few pages. And if that item is approved,
Robert,
I'm sorry.
Robert,
Your page 3 is
yeah,
different from
this
that page 3.
This presentation was sent to the area here, but you brought in the update.
okay, perfect.
Oh,
We have the
okay.
update,
I was
okay.
like, my
Okay.
numbers are
Okay,
different.
Yeah, no
Okay.
problem. We have, okay, and I also have that, and I actually emailed it over, so I know
Okay,
there's
that's
multiple
okay.
emails.
That's
So
fine.
that was the first scenario, and we ran an additional scenario this afternoon of $8,695,000. Project fund, $8,615,000, which is what you have. And the difference is the estimated cost of issuance. We have bond counsel, financial advisor, the placement agent, purchaser counsel, paying agent, roughly about $79,754. And again, as Mr. Flores stated, the projects are anywhere from the school furniture, computers, software, police vehicles. Everything you see on this page, the board has an opportunity down the road, and y'all have done a great job being strategic about what kind of projects, what financings do we go on the M&O side, and what do we do on the INS side. M&O does not require voter approval, just board approval. Certain projects are restricted to do in equipment. At a later date, you can take this debt on this page, page 3, and ask the voters to refinance it, and it requires voter approval, move it from the M&O side, and shift it over to your interest and sinking fund INS tax rate. And that frees up the M&O pennies to do, Mr. Gonzalez and his staff, do the day-to-day operations, whether it be salaries, insurance, whatever it is. It frees up those pennies to take care of M&O needs, and this gets shifted over. But it does require voter approval, which could be at a later date. And again, the projects on the first and the scenario you have in front of you, 7 years, averaging about $1.4 million. If you turn to page 4, we have the timetable. And again, it's just a workshop this evening, board consideration next week, and even next week when the board is considering it, you're not considering to get into the debt. All you're allowing is for us to work with Ms. Benavides, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Flores, work with the team, go out there and get bids on the financing with a placement agent. If you notice, we have several dates there. And on that item is approved on the 15th. On March the 21st, the placement agent is going to receive the bids from the banks. And when we say the banks, there's going to be roughly 25 to 50 banks that are going to see the entire documents, legal and financial, that we all work together and put in a packet that the placement agent sends out. The 22nd at that board meeting will present the lowest interest rate, and at that evening as well, you'll consider the financing as final. And if it is approved on the 22nd, you will receive the funds on April the 20th. And again, we won't know what the rate is until the 21st. We'll get a verbal from Mr. Gonzalez, Ms. Benavides, or Mr. Flores, and present the final document for your consideration on the 22nd. Now, on page 5 is the participants page. We have the issuer, United Independent School District, financial advisor, bond counsel, Winstead PC, CRD Law Group, the placement agent, FHN Financial, First Horizon, National Financial. The purchaser, which is the bank, is to be determined. We won't know until the bids are in. And then the paying agent is normally the bank that loans the funds as a private placement. We won't need a bond rating or bond insurance for the M&O debt. So we won't know that time until the 21st. I know it's a lot of information. And Ms. Molina, I have a card with me, but feel free. I think other board members have my cell phone. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Who is the purchaser?
The purchaser we have to be determined. So if you go to the prior page, the placement agent is going to send out the bid documents. And on the 21st, on March the 21st, when all the bank bids come in, we'll know who the purchaser is. When we say the purchaser, it's the bank that's going to buy this debt, this bond, and loan the money.
You will have a recommendation?
Yes, sir.
As
And
the
it's
financial advisor?
Absolutely.
What about the bond counsel? Do they have a recommendation also?
The bond counsel will be there. Both co-counsels will, their role is to get all the financial legal documents prepared. And it will work with your staff, Mr. Gonzalez and Ms. Benavides, Mr. Flores, and we'll recommend the lowest rate, and we'll have a comparison and say, these are the banks that submitted, these are the ones that did not, here's the lowest rate, the best term. And our goal, sir, is to structure the financing callable at any time without any premium. And when I say that, that's, say for example, you come into a windfall and you have additional funds and you want to pay off the debt early. You can pay it off on this day, the interest owed up to that day, and be done with the financing. Or at a later date, move the debt over to the INS without any penalty or premium. So on the 21st is when we'll find out who the bank is, who the purchaser is, and who the paying agent will be on the 21st. So they'll have about 2 weeks to review these documents that we put together, and then they'll be submitting the bid. And on the 22nd, we'll make the recommendation. Yes, sir.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
We
Thank
just
you
don't know
again.
what's on that list.
Yeah, I'd like to see that list before we approve.
That'll come later, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly.
We'll wait, we'll wait, we'll wait, we'll wait.
Want to make sure we're going to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Tijerina.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the
Yes, sir.
time to come
Get a new-
talk to us.
And you-
Agenda item 5E, discussion of a resolution declaring intent of to reimburse certain expenditures.
Mr. Tijerina will also go through this.
Okay.
presentation.
These two items were prepared by your co-bond councils, and fortunately, Mr. Martinez was not able to attend tonight's meeting. But what a reimbursement resolution is, it allows you that if these projects that we discussed earlier, if for any reason you need them ASAP, you can take funds from the general fund cash that you have on hand, purchase the items tomorrow. And when you receive the bond proceeds, if this item is approved, item before, next week on the 15th and on the 22nd of March, when you get the bond proceeds, and I'm going to give an example, say you spend $200,000 tomorrow for some of the equipment, computer, software, vehicles, and on April the 22nd, when you get that $7 million and change, or $8 million and change now, you could take $200,000 from the bond proceeds and put it back in the general fund. You're saying, well, why do we need this item? We could do this anytime. The IRS does not allow you to do that legally unless you approve this agenda item. Doesn't cost anything. You don't have to use the general fund proceeds. You can wait till April the 22nd, but just in case Ms. Benavides says we need something ASAP, we got to buy it, we can't wait till April the 22nd. When you get the bond proceeds, you put it back in the general fund. That's all it allows you to do legally.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to
No, thank you
represent
for
the
coming
district.
and speaking to us. We appreciate it.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Agenda item 5F, discussion regarding property tax refunds for the month of January 2023. Ms. Madrigal.
Yes, we bring the tax refunds for the month of January. We have a total of 10 refunds to taxpayers totaling $51,578.42. These are erroneous, one erroneous and overpayments. These accounts are paid in full. There's no loss of revenue to the district. Do you have any
Okay,
questions?
absolutely.
No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 5G, discussion regarding boundary changes effective for the 2023-2024 school year for the following: Lyndon B. Johnson High School, elementary feeder schools, Veterans Elementary to Roosevelt Elementary, Veterans Elementary to Bettis Elementary, and Bettis Elementary to Arndt Elementary.
So we have we have an amended agenda.
Okay.
We removed the Bettis to Arndt. We did
Okay.
have meetings with the parents. When administration, we discussed it, the parents were not happy about moving across the Highway 83.
Mhm.
But,
Just more detail, maybe change.
yeah, so I just want to show you real quickly the changes that we are still moving forward with. If you want to go to the pictures are worth 1,000 words, right?
Yes.
So right here, if you keep on going down, Bettis is in purple, Roosevelt is in like, I don't know what color that is.
Pink or
Red.
Yes, okay, in red, and then the bottom is blue, it's Veterans, which is over there by LBJ. There's a section, Sam, you want to go up again? No, down, I guess, down. Yes, thanks, Sam. So what we're proposing, go ahead and go down some more.
Oh, to the
Yeah.
next picture?
Yeah, it'll show the shaded area that we're moving. There's no houses right here where it's purple lines or angle lines. There's no houses there right now. There's planned development, but what we want to do is move those people or houses that are going to be there in the future, we want to move them to Bettis because Veterans area is booming. It's growing by many, many students. The other change we want to do is on the right side is the shaded area. Again, there's no permits or houses there right now, but we want to be ready for the future. And the staff actually calls this a land cleanup. So we're cleaning up the boundaries to get ready for the future. And whatever is built there will go to Roosevelt Elementary. So there's no effect right now on students or homes or households at this time with this boundary change. So we did revise the agenda, and that's the way, the agenda, we're taking off the
Okay,
pedestal
that-
aren't.
That's it. Okay,
Yes.
all right, perfect. Agenda item 5H, discussion regarding boundary changes effective for the 2023-2024 school year for the following campuses: San Isidro Elementary to Roberto J. Santos Elementary, Herrera Middle School to United Middle School, United High School to John B. Alexander High School. Is that
Yes,
correct? No
yes.
changes there?
This one stays the way it
Okay.
is, and it's really just a really slim, I think you go up and stand, right there, that area that has the angles, the diagonal
fill?
line.
Uh-huh.
There's nobody there right now. There,
Okay.
it's kind of where Shiloh meets Bob Bullock.
Okay.
And so this was recommended just to clean that up. Whenever there's any development in that area, we'll be ready. You know, we won't have to come back and say, okay, let's move these. So this was recommended. Again, no parent meetings because there were no students
No,
involved.
nobody-
Parents,
yeah, yeah.
right.
Okay, perfect. Agenda item 5.
I'm sorry, I do have a question. On the areas, going back to the LBJ one,
Okay.
for Veterans Memorial, the areas that we don't, there's planned economic development. We do have those numbers, right, of, from the economic development, if they're sharing those numbers with us, we know how much we're gonna be increasing student-wise, yes, right?
We actually have the planning department, visits with the city planning department. They get numbers of permits of different areas of town. And in there, we have seen permits already in that area where you see veterans. And so we are gonna incorporate a slight growth in veterans population when we're doing our projections for next year.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Good. That's what I wanted to hear.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 5I, discussion regarding boundary changes effective for the 2023-2024 school year for the following: United South High School Elementary Middle feeder schools, okay, and then Bonnie Garcia Elementary to Killam Elementary, and Salinas Elementary to Ruiz, and United South Middle to Gonzalez Middle.
So on this agenda, we're also modifying it. We're removing the Salinas to Reese. It was 45 students, and actually, when we started looking at that area, many of those people that live in that area actually already go to Reese. We just felt these 45 students that are at Salinas can fit them, still have them in their area. Salinas looks like it's all built out, so we think they can handle the 45 students in their classrooms right now. They have them in there right now. We don't see a lot of growth in that particular boundary. And so, Sam, you want to go to the revised agenda?
There's no portable.
Yeah, at the very top.
Yeah, at the very top. So you'll see the way the revised agenda reads. We remove Salinas to Reese.
And just for the record, the revised agenda, Ms. Benavides is talking about for the regular agenda.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes.
You don't have any
So-
portables in that area, that's what we're avoiding.
Yes, yeah, we don't have portables at this time. So, but we are moving forward to recommend boundary changes from Bonnie Garcia to Killam and United South Middle to Gonzalez, and we'll show you the maps of the areas that get affected.
I love my new job.
Right here, you'll see again the shaded area. This is what we call the Cheyenne area. It's west of Bob Bullock. It's behind the TV station that was there. And there's about, I think it was almost 200 students, elementary students that are going to Bonnie Garcia. I don't know if you want to show where Bonnie is.
You said 200?
Yeah, I believe it's 200. So right now, these students come to Bonnie, and what the recommendation would be, I think you can go to the next slide, would be to take them to Killam, stop at Killam, lower it. And they would end up going to Killam. Now, we did have a meeting with the parents. There is growth in that area. If you go down Cuatro Vientos, on the east side of Cuatro Vientos, the Wright Ranch is south of Bonnie Garcia. Right now, that's their attendance zone. They have many permits. They have, I think, about 85 permits. They have a multifamily apartment building going up in the Bonnie Garcia area. And so we're recommending this change. Transportation was at the meeting. They did tell the parents that right now, these kids are being transported to Bonnie from their residential area. but they would now have transportation to Killam Elementary. And I don't know if you want to go up and see the numbers. I'm sorry, Sam, down. So you can see the effect of the enrollment in that school. So there's 189 students. You'll see the breakdown of the grade levels there. If we adjust Bonnie Garcia down, what you see there for Bonnie Garcia, there's no growth numbers in those enrollments. So we're projecting there is growth in there because of those permits and those developments that are going up fast. In fact, they just opened up Los Presidentes on the east side. And so we know that area is going to take off. And then you'll see the numbers for Killam. We actually had our management meeting yesterday at Killam. You can see that there really is no activity. They have they have some available classrooms. The principal from Killam was at the meeting, and so was the Bonnie Garcia principal. He talked to the parents, said they're very welcome to come to his school to visit with him, to see the activities going on. And so we do want to recommend doing this boundary change. We feel it'll get Bonnie ready for any growth, and Killam really doesn't have any permits in its area right now that we see. So we think this would be a stable area. But Bonnie will be having growth.
You take it from
Bonnie to Killam?
Yeah, Bonnie to Killam.
Right. I mean, the parents are okay with it.
They're all getting bused anyway.
Yeah, that's our primary concern
They're gonna come
always, is
around the loop, I
transportation.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of going that way, they'll go
Across,
that way. Yeah.
instead of going across.
Instead of
59.
going 59,
Yes.
they're gonna
They're gonna
go
come around.
north, yeah,
Around the
over
loop.
here somewhere.
Yes, yes. And then the other boundary change that we're recommending is actually the same development, the same neighborhood. It's the middle schools, yeah. So right now, again, you see in blue, these individuals go to United Middle School. You see the blue,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, United South. It's been a really long day.
I was gonna say that.
Yes.
Sorry.
We had a balcony
It's
meeting last
okay,
night.
it's all right.
Okay, yes, right now they go to United South Middle. And so what we're proposing is that they would go to Gonzales Middle. So then it's pretty clean, the feeder pattern, where now everything north of Highway 359 would either go to Zapparini, Killam, and Cuellar, and Gonzales Middle School would be these students' middle school.
St. Peter's.
Yeah, the same feeder. So I don't know if you want to go up and show them the numbers, Sam.
Sure.
So right here, it's 143 students, and they want to, again, really United South Middle, it's really built out also, but it has a lot of portables. They have over 1,000 students.
Yeah.
So we want to give them that kind of relief.
Yeah.
The issue there with the parents is the middle school kids. But Mr. Valdez, the principal from United South Middle, did advise the parents, there's a transfer process if they want to stay at that school. But he did tell them, when he looks at transfers, he looks at attendance, discipline, grades before he
Makes his decision.
Yes, but we're hoping that we're going to provide transportation. Right now, the kids from Cheyenne that are going to United South Middle, they do get transportation. With this boundary change, they would not qualify for transportation to United South Middle. They do qualify for transportation to go to Gonzales.
Okay, so if they choose to stay, then they just do it without
And
transportation.
Molina Middle would play into any of this?
No, Molina Middle actually gave us relief for Loms, Los Obispos Middle, and Lamar Bruni. And that's really where they got
Yeah.
their
Most of the
students
kids
from.
from
Yeah, yes,
South.
yeah. So those would be our recommendations next week.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Okay, moving on to agenda item 5J, discussion regarding low attendance waivers. Should we do all of them?
Yes, please.
Okay, J, K, and L, we're gonna do them all together? Low
JK.
attendance waivers? Well, yeah, you got it, I got it,
Yes,
different.
there's a long list. These are the elementary schools. There's a new rule that we can do 5%. Yeah, keep on going to show the schools. We're allowed to ask for a waiver when there's an attendance rate that is more than 5% lower than the prior year. And so here's a list of the schools. This is the second 6 weeks. our staff went day by day and compared to the prior year attendance rate. So if TA approves these, we'll go back into our system and hopefully that'll help our attendance rate. So all of these were health reasons. We did have a lot of flu, and we did have a lot of, we had some COVID cases, but you do have to have a student in remote conferencing at that campus. So we actually have to prove to TA that there is a remote conference student at that campus, and we have the data for that.
It's the same issue for the secondary school.
The same issue for the secondary schools, for the next
Elementary and
item.
sec- So we did,
Yes.
we did J and K together?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Agenda item 5L, discussion regarding instructional materials allotment and TEAC certification form. Hello.
Mike?
Hello, good evening, members of the board, Mr. Gonzalez and USD staff. Before you, it's more of a formality that TEA asks of us to bring before you, kind of the list of our material that we have that's in adoption and like that. Once we bring it before the board, they'll be able to provide funding for us for that material.
Any questions?
No
Okay,
questions.
Not at
thank
this
you.
time.
We're good?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Agenda item 5M, discussion regarding recommendation of JOC 004-2002, Gonzales Middle School HVAC Systems Replacement Phase 1, 16 systems. That was long.
Okay, good evening, board members,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Gonzalez and staff, Cordy Jackson for the record. As just for Ms. Molina's benefit, since she's new, JOC is our default construction method, so anytime we want to do any projects, we can utilize that method without getting approval for the procurement method for construction prior to. But anytime any of those projects are over 500,000, we need to bring them to the board for approval. So our recommendation is to award this contract to one of our approved JOC vendors, Leidecker Construction, in the amount of $1,873,000.
That's your recommendation. Any question?
I did have
Okay,
a
go
point. We're repairing something that's broken? Is that what we're doing?
We're replacing 16 units, and I have Mr. Menchaca here, if he wants to go
Okay,
into more detail.
that's fine. What, I guess my question is gonna be, we've had some heating issues, what is it, the plumbing issues at United
the
High
water,
School.
yeah.
And I just wanna know if there's plans to hopefully repair this once and for all, and I don't know if you have anything to do with it, and how we can get it done, I guess.
Well, let's.
Good evening,
hold
board
on.
members.
Before we finish, are we done with this other one on the
On the
JOC 00420?
We are.
That's your recommendation?
That's our recommendation,
Okay.
yes.
I've got no questions on that, so.
Okay.
That's for the.
That's good. But
Thank
just
you.
curious, because I know that eventually, in case it has to be repairs, that's my train of thought, how to get it done.
Okay, that could be one of the things that we do with our funding agency. We have on the long list. We can pay for it out of our M&O, move it over later, and take care of what we gotta take care of.
But right now, there's no plans, long-term plans to
No,
repair?
we
Yes.
Sam and I are visiting
Yes.
with the maintenance department
Yes, we are.
and the facilities department on the water heater issue.
The water heater, yes.
Yes, so we are working with them. We have a meeting on Thursday, and I don't know if you remember those $8 million coming
The $8
from.
million
Yeah,
dollars
that's what I
coming
was saying, that we could use,
Yes.
that's why we're doing the,
In March.
we need to do the resolution so that we can pay for it, and then when the money comes
Exactly.
in, we pay ourselves back.
But right now, there's no plans on this agenda for this.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda,
So-
yeah. So are we out of line? Are we okay?
Yeah, I would recommend not discussing it.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you.
Thank you. Sorry, did you want to say something? I don't know if he can comment on that, can he?
He can give comment, yes.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
We're done with the item.
That's why I said repairs.
I don't want to call this to his attention, but he is an Aggie also.
Okay.
Well, good
So you
evening,
can-
and thank you
you
for
may-
allowing me to speak to
You
y'all.
may speak.
Thank you.
You may speak. Thank you.
No comments?
Okay, we're good, we're good.
No, you can, you can make a comment.
You can make a comment, Mr.
You
Menchaca,
can,
yes.
but.
Okay, just briefly, well, when we went ahead in that school, we are actually entertaining only, we have 26 HVAC equipment in Gonzales Middle School. That equipment is over 25 years old. And the fact is that when we started the school year, we did have a lot of issues in being able to maintain the environment in its proper temperature and humidity. And what we have decided in this case, we are actually just servicing in this case, and we're looking at 16 of these units, which will be exclusively for the classrooms.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank
For
you.
your information.
Thank you.
Yes.
FYI, FYI, not
Thank
on
you.
the agenda.
Appreciate it.
Thank you
so much.
Okay, agenda item 5N, discussion of awarding bids, proposals, and qualifications. Ms. Jackson?
Good evening. We have the following for your consideration. RFP 2022-062, food service kitchen parts and supplies to the recommended vendors, Commercial Kitchen Parts and Supplies, Johnson Supply Laredo, and Partstown LLC. RFP 2022-058, this is an E-rate project, so I'm going to read out the eligible E-rate costs and then the ineligible. And what that means is the eligible we get reimbursed by E-rate, the ineligible would be paid for by the district. So for section 1, which is the data cabling for the 2 new schools, the recommended vendor is M1 Networks at $789,107.83 of eligible expenses and $58,738.12 of ineligible. For section 2, the recommended vendor is Solid IT, and that's for the network equipment. And so the recommended amounts are $739,187.76 of eligible expenses, and let me just double check the number. Is that only 2,000 or 2? It's because the commas are $2,085.60 of ineligible. Section 3, which is the voice systems, that would be recommended vendor NetSync, $647,902.54 of eligible expenses, and $173,100.15 of ineligible expenses. RFP 2022-064, desktop microcomputer services and finance solution. At this point, we're not recommending the finance solution. We're only recommending the desktop microcomputers and purchases to Dell Technologies. The initial order would be for $2.7 million, and subsequent orders based on the tabulation, we got unit costs for any additional computers or microcomputers that may be needed throughout the year. And then we have an RFQ for the Special Education Department, which is a request for qualification. So here there will be no pricing. Once you all approve these as the most qualified, then we go back and negotiate a contract with these providers. And so we're recommending the vendors listed there for your approval.
And they're for like what kind of services?
They're for medical evaluations,
Okay.
hearing impairments, like other evaluations that the special ed department needs to send the students to get evaluated. So it could
Okay.
be for eyesight, hearing, and any other related impairments that they have to send to the students.
When I understand the word impairment, I mean, you're talking about classes or?
One of them
Glasses, excuse me.
could be glasses, that's the Dr. Ronald Newton.
Yeah.
Then another one could be hearing aid, and that's Olivera.
Okay.
And then the other health could be the
Interesting.
Gateway and Dr. Sloan Mo. But I don't know if special ed is here too.
No, but it's, again, it's just depending on what the needs are when they have those arts for individual students.
These would be the
And
vendors.
so these are just to have our vendors available to
should we
them.
need them? Yeah, they're just on a list. They're on a list, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 5O, discussion regarding second and final reading of TASB Update 120 local policies. Ms. Morales.
Good evening, Ms. Molina, Ms. Oliveros, Mr. Montemayor, Mr. Castillo, Mr. Gonzalez, members of the audience, Rebecca Morales, Assistant Superintendent for Administration and Policies. So we are bringing to you a recommendation to approve a second and final reading to approve TASB Updates 120 that we brought to you last month, at last month's board meeting, with no recommended changes to approve as discussed last month.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 5P, discussion regarding requests from board members in regards to use of board discretionary funds for various projects and campuses.
Madam
Mr.
President, members of the board, Mr. Gonzalez, there are no additional requests other than what's in your packet. So if anything comes from now until the next board meeting, we'll include it at the board meeting and read it out loud.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Motion for
Motion to
adjourn, second. Okay, so moved. Thank you.